board. I suggest that as a hobby to anybody. You get old, too old to golf. You can still do that. You sit in a chair and enjoy yourself. Before I get into the meat of my show today, Mr. Paul Standford on industrial hemp, among other things, I would like to draw attention to this big article paper today. Money page says here, red tape entangles Kaneohe inventor. So a fellow named Richard Maruya is going to be coming on my show. I just talked to him about 20, 30 minutes ago. And he has invented a new refrigerant, revolutionized refrigerant. So something you might put in your air conditioning in your automobile. And it's more efficient, takes a lot less stress off the compressor, and it's also better for the environment, etc. It's been marketing this forever, and the American EPA and all the guys where you have to jump all through the hoops, they're just shut them on down. And I have a feeling they're shutting them on down for the same reason they made industrial hemp illegal, because they got too much money made on their old boy network. And they don't want anybody coming into their club. And he's going over to Japan with it. We'll be talking with him. He's coming in live. Let's get to it. Your solar guy, Jeff Davis, would like to welcome, for the first time, Mr. Paul Standford on their show. Aloha, Paul. Welcome to Hawaii's Tomorrow.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, thanks for your patience and listening to all that. Did you learn anything?
Yeah, a couple things.
Well, that's what I'm here for. Well, that's a trip. And the bigger story when I talked to him today was that, yeah, indeed, the corporations own the government. That's why he hasn't been able to get his licenses going through, even though a joint venture with Dow and Honeywell for the same type of thing began years later and was approved a year ago. You know, because corporate America owns us. Basically, it sounds trite. You know, it sounds like the sky is falling at Chicken Little and corporate America owns us, man. You know, it's not like I'm looking for some food stamps here. I'd just like to see my vote count, which it does not. Now, Paul, why don't you give us, again, the 101 short version background of who you are and how you ended up on my show?
Well, a friend of ours, Jared Christie, who's going through a federal trial along with her husband, Roger Christie, and some other people from Hilo, Hawaii. They were busted with about 2 pounds of cannabis back in July of 2010.
3 years ago.
Roger Christie without bail, without trial, for almost 3 years. So Chair asked me to call you because I've been working with Roger Christie since.
Again, who are you?
I am a longtime medical marijuana and hemp activist. I've been working on marijuana law reform since the late 1970s.
All right, let's take people out of their box, because most people figure well, here's what most people figure. They figure if you have a marijuana card so you can get high, you really don't need to use pot. There's nothing good for pot except being a lazy, dumb hippie, right?
That's not true.
Of course it's not true.
There's a lot of patients out there that desperately need it. I've seen multiple sclerosis patients who went from being all seized and in spasms to you couldn't even tell they had multiple sclerosis. I've seen another multiple sclerosis patient who was blind, who used medical marijuana and regained his sight.
Well, don't be telling too many people that, because, again, this is just the type of stuff that...
It's almost miraculous.
Well, again, you don't even have to go to the miraculous side of it, because it starts to become suspect.
Well, a lot of people know how it helps with cancer.
Yeah, it's anti-nausea. I've said it on the radio. I used to take it when I went fishing.
Even the federal government has a patent on cannabis, on marijuana, for anti-cancer and for pain. So the federal government has a patent on medical marijuana, the HHS, Health and Human Services.
Okay.
So on one hand, the federal government says you can't have it at all, and it doesn't have any medical use, with the Drug Enforcement Administration being the agency saying that. On the other hand, Health and Human Services has patented it for its medical use.
Yeah, very interesting in that it is scheduled as a Schedule 1 drug with PCP and ice and crack, because it has no medicinal value, and yet again it is medicinally legal in 18 different states. Has been
and
for...
Ironically, the District of Columbia, they just started opening a new dispensary that has a
All right. We're getting sidetracked here, okay? Because today's show is going to be about something that won't get you high, something that won't cure your nausea if you're taking chemotherapy, something that won't be a benefit to you, that you won't have to eat pharmaceutical drugs and pills to try to get the same effects, that'll eventually just give you another side effect, which is worse. We're going to talk about industrial hemp, okay? Um, let's do a quick fact. Am I right or wrong? You say yes or no. Was the original Constitution written on industrial hemp?
Yeah.
And then was there not also
Paper was.
a paper? Pardon me?
Yeah, most paper was. Vast majority of paper. They didn't invent wood pulp paper until the 1860s.
This bottom line being that industrial hemp to this day is as common as corn or soybean in many countries, correct?
That's true. In fact, today, about half of the cigarettes in the United States are wrapped in hemp fiber from marijuana stems.
Now, yes or no, true or false, industrial hemp cannot get you high.
Yeah, you're right. Hemp is hemp fiber from the stem, hemp seed oil, and hemp seed protein. Those will never get you high. They have no THC.
And right or wrong, they've been illegal since somewhere in the late 1930s here in America.
That's right.
Okay, now tell me, from your perspective, because weren't you the first guy to start bringing hemp into America after like 50 years?
That's true. I started a company, Rope Walk Paper and Fiber, and Tree-Free Eco Paper. And I started importing hemp from China back in 1988. I went to school in China to access hemp fiber and paper and cloth, and I started importing it from China while I was an exchange student at Portland State University.
Now,
I did that as a business, and pretty successful with Tree-Free Eco Paper.
I tell you what, it's ironic and interesting that segues back to this Roger Christie issue. The guy's been held in prison with no bail for pot. In the sense that he was arrested on Maui for, what was it, 400 pounds of hemp seed?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I presume he had it because it's a food. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's completely legal, but the police on Maui arrested him back in the early 1990s.
Yeah, that was his only arrest prior to being thrown into federal prison for 3 years with no bail.
Right. They threw those charges out eventually, and he got a lawyer and sued. You know, they took him to court, put him in jail, took his seed, wouldn't give him back. He sued and got a $70,000 judgment.
Yeah, they don't like Roger Christie much. The federal government does not like Roger Christie much. He's been a thorn in their side. And then let us go on for one of the reasons why. Industrial hemp.
Yeah.
Now, right or wrong, industrial hemp was outlawed somewhere in the late 30s. Is that correct? 1930?
Yeah, it was prohibited with the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937.
And it was it at that point outlawed because it had been lumped in with cannabis that can have effect on you?
These affected industries in the fuel and fiber industries, whether it be petrochemicals for the fuel or wood-based paper, which takes a lot of chemicals.
Nylon, petrochemical, nylon, polyesters. Yeah. All the things that hemp was used for countless of tens of thousands of years.
Everybody knew what hemp was. Everyone knew what hemp was. They never could have prohibited hemp. But what they did, it was a very racist time. They used this word marijuana that they took from a Mexican Revolutionary War song in Pancho Villa's time called La Cucaracha, which was the song of the peasant revolutionaries in Mexico in 1911. And a line in that talks about marijuana and how cockroaches smoke marijuana. Cockroaches were a synonym for the Mexican revolutionaries. And so they took that name, marijuana, a slang name from this song, and said there's this deadly new drug, and it's called marijuana, and it causes people to go crazy and kill their family and friends. Today we call that reefer madness.
Yeah, reefer madness, that was the name of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Reefer Madness movie that depicted people smoking marijuana, going crazy and killing their family and friends. That was the basic story. Marijuana makes you go crazy and kill your family and friends.
Right.
So based on this racist lie, they were able to prohibit this hemp. They never could have done it if they called it hemp.
Okay, so why in the world would the powers that be care about making a substance that had such value in commodity in an economic world, and in the food world, and in the clothing world, and in the fuel world? Why in the heck would they want to get rid of this otherwise productive and benignly psychotropic substance?
Because the whole petrochemical industry is capital intensive. It takes lots of money. Today, it takes hundreds of millions of dollars to go drill for oil. It takes hundreds of billions of dollars to refine it into product. It's highly toxic, but because it's so capital intensive, only the richest people on earth can play that game. But for hemp fuel, any farmer can grow an acre of hemp and get over 300 gallons of oil. And the byproduct of that 300 gallons of oil, or about 6 barrels of oil per acre, the byproduct of that is 3 tons of high-protein hemp seed meal and 30 tons of hemp fiber for canvas, rope, lace, linen, building material, and paper. And so this unholy alliance between the banks and the petrochemical industry and the newspaper, paper industry created this myth, reefer madness, and said this deadly new drug called marijuana has to be prohibited.
Well, you know, it's... Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, they took the plant that produces more fiber than any other plant on the planet. The United States Department of Agriculture, in their bulletin 404 that came out in 1916, said a waste product for making canvas, rope, lace, and linen from hemp. That waste product makes more than 4 times more paper than trees. That doesn't count the biofuel. So it makes more fiber, it makes more fuel from the seed oil and the biomass conversion. It makes more food from the protein, that 3 tons of high-protein hemp feed meal an acre. And it makes more of all these things, including more medicine. And
also,
the oldest crop.
I read
crop purposely sown by human beings. You go back to all the ancient civilizations, and they were growing hemp, whether it be along the Tigris-Euphrates Valley in present-day Iraq, or along the Yellow River Valley in China. The first civilizations were growing hemp. It's been cultivated for at least 12,000 years.
Again,
they've taken the oldest crop. Yeah.
Come on. We don't have all day. Let's keep it short, okay? Yeah, I get the gist of it. And so do my listeners. And one more time, let's go back to the important aspect. So why is it illegal?
So the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, crony, ruling class can make more money and keep it out of the hands of the rest of us.
Okay.
It will naturally decentralize the economy and economic and political power.
You know, it's interesting that one good thing about, obviously, the internet and all that is that we are able to talk about this while people who were affected by the reefer madness politics are still alive. For instance, myself, I was young, but I remember reefer madness. Of course, I sucked it right up. Everybody believed that because it was on TV. I mean, the government, people trusted their government back then.
Yeah, they came into my school and showed me movies about how dangerous marijuana was when I was in grade school.
That's what I'm talking about. But we're still alive, and we've come full circle to see the true madness. The true madness is that our own governments, for profit, will sell us down a river, will sell us a bag of goods, will send us to wars and get us killed for money. And I think without a realization of that and the education of that, it'll continue to happen. And this is it, folks. We've got it right in front of our faces, right? Did you hear me talking about Project Mockingbird, Paul? Again, talking.
I certainly did, yes. Project Mockingbird was a CIA op that was orchestrated by a guy who probably was involved in the Kennedy assassination. But it was about controlling.
Well, again, you start talking, you throw in this Kennedy assassin. Let's go to the space people and the spacemen next. You know, regardless if it's true. You got to stop right there and just say, look, Freedom of Information Act, go Google Project Mockingbird. You'll see the CIA admitted that they are a bunch of, that they don't care about their own people, that they are, in fact, we are their worst enemies and they're going to control us, right?
They have today over 1,800 reporters on the payroll.
That's right.
Tell the CIA story.
That's correct. And then, by the way, it isn't a bunch of Art Norrie trying to sell our book nutcases telling you this. It's the CIA's admission of it with their own papers released. Brutal stuff. Now, again, I'm talking with Paul, and what we're talking about and beating this bush, all pun intended, is the fact that industrial hemp, which has nothing but positive benefits for many, many economies around the world as we speak, and used to have one for America, and it goes back tens of thousands of years for human beings because it's such a great product. has been outlawed in America since 1933. And then I'll make the story short. There was a machine when the Industrial Revolution was coming along, and this is a harvesting device because industrial hemp, one of the reasons it's got so much fiber is what makes it so tough. And harvesting it was an issue, and it was a plant by plant, stock by stock, I presume. And so it was no threat to paper mills and to oil companies at that time because you couldn't harvest it fast enough. It grows faster than almost anything on the planet. It's good for the soil. But again, you couldn't harvest it in a way. Well, this fellow had invented the machine. Do you know what the machine was called, Paul?
Yeah, it was the decorticator.
The decorticator. That just shows you how old it was. It was called the decorticator. And the decorticator was about to take industrial hemp to the industrial level because it was going to be able to harvest it by a machine and get it done with less man hours and quicker time and less, obviously, labor costs. And that's when our petrochemical, our DuPonts, our paper, in fact, the nephew for the Drug Enforcement Agency, previously called something else, was the nephew of J.P. Morgan, was he not?
Yeah, he was Harry Anslinger. He was the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. In 1972, that transformed into the Drug Enforcement Administration of the federal government.
Well, anyway, these guys managed to they went out, they started a propaganda campaign about how marijuana was going to turn you into a Mexican, basically. I mean, it was just a great way to throw Mexican and black people in jail to boot. That sure didn't hurt. Prison, industrial population. Let's get some more people and put them in our hotels. They got together and they said, we can't have this marijuana coming on board because we're making all these products out of oil and out of trees. Two things leading to CO2 into our atmosphere, the cutting down of trees, and of course the burning of fossil fuels / oil. And they said, we're going to just tell everybody that this industrial hemp is just as, we're just going to lump it all together. The Americans are stupid anyway, thanks to our education system. And we're not going to have any of these people coming in and competing with us, as you mentioned, right? We're the only guys who can afford to spend all the millions and billions of dollars to hunt down oil and pump it. We don't have any competition there, relatively speaking, but if we let this hemp get out there, any farmer and his brother can compete against us. Does that sum it up, Paul?
Yeah, it's the energy industry, the world's largest industry. They don't want to compete against farmers and anybody who's got less than, $100 billion.
Now, again, this point would be very much more difficult to make if the stuff got you high. Because nobody would be able to determine whether you were just wanting this stuff out there because you approved of the fact that it got you high or if you really cared about it as a fiber and an oil, right?
Yeah.
But this stuff can't get you high. So I ask you, why the heck why hasn't this thing been repealed a long time ago? Do you have any idea why this thing hasn't been repealed for at least?
Well, it's the law enforcement community, what I call the drug enforcement industrial complex. It's like Eisenhower warned us about the military industrial complex. There's the whole drug enforcement industrial complex. Law enforcement, prison, drug testing. Those people have a lot of political power. They impose, they scared any politician to try to bring it up. What they talk about drugs.
Again, in all this time, no one has come up and said, hey, blah, 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 this stuff can't get you high. Why is it on the get you high list? I'm losing your volume. Leah is...
It all has to do with money and power, control.
All right, let's move forward now. Kentucky just got an exemption for that, did they not?
Yeah, but what they've done is they passed the state law. Kentucky's become the 8th state that has a state law to cultivate low THC hemp. But the only hemp they allow is this extra low, I call it dwarf hemp, that has less than 0.2% THC. It's a French patented variety. The only way you can get that seed is to import it from France. You have to have a Drug Enforcement Administration, a DEA license to import it. The DEA isn't giving out any of those licenses. They only allow sterile hemp seeds to be imported in the United States.
And that's for food, correct?
Right.
Exactly. What do you know about
mainly from Canada.
What do you know about the nutritional value and the amino acid content of hemp seed?
Well, hemp is remarkably has the perfect balance of of amino acids, the 8 amino acids we need for human health, and the perfect balance of the omega 3, 6, and 9, the essential fatty acids that we need for heart and brain health.
Let me
Really
ask
a
you.
superfood.
Let's see, who was I talking to today? David West.
Yeah.
And
David,
then, you know,
fascinating agronomist from the Midwest.
right. Very interesting. Yeah, he was in Hawaii in '93 for 4 years, and he was growing a hemp pilot project, and that was under the auspices. Hang on.
Is the only one.
Hang on. And then it was the first done, and it was under the auspices of our government, and involved with that was Cynthia Thielen. And she's a representative now. I don't know what she was back then. Perhaps a representative, but he knows her, and then they worked together way back when. Well, Cynthia Thielen is in the paper not as recently as 60 days ago, with an article, an op-ed on, we got to get industrial hemp going. We got to get industrial hemp going. So we've got politicians, even, let alone, you know. But you see my frustration? Where is the clothing company who's got the money to lobby? Where is the biofuel company who's got the money to lobby? Where's the nylon, where's the fiber company? There's so many uses for this. Where are the people who want to grow it and want to compete with oil? How come they haven't come out of the woodwork?
There's only one guy in the country who's really put his money where his mouth is. And in terms of, he's made a lot of money in the industrial hemp world. He's put the money back into it, and that's Dr. Bronner's toast.
Oh, I love that.
It's very popular, and he donated $250,000 to marijuana legalization in Washington, Oregon, and Colorado in his last election cycle.
And did I not hear that one of his people was arrested when he locked himself in a glass case and started pressing hemp seed oil in front of the White House?
The White House. The owner, actually, David Bronner.
How do I get this guy on my show, for criminy sakes?
I'll give you his phone number here.
That's a good idea. I mean, you know, because again, you and I can sit here, and you're obviously a respected person in this. If people who followed this and been involved with it over the years know your name off the top of their heads and know all about you. But I just met you today. My listeners just met you today. But everybody knows who Dr. Bronner is. At least anybody who's an old hippie. The latest generation may not. But he's a famous household word. I'd really like to hear from this guy on this subject, because from my point of view,
well, the original Dr. Bronner passed away, and it's his grandson, David Bronner, who runs the company.
That shows you how old I am. Well, I tell you what, it's like this: a dam breaking, crack by crack, drip by drip. This is what's happening right here. This is what happens when basically all wrongs are righted, and we're trying to right this wrong. And in the meantime, who's suffering? Every one of us, because we've got CO2, we've got climate change just flying at us because of all this stuff we've done. You know, we might be the lucky ones here in America, but there's going to be people in Bangladesh and in Pacific Islands and everywhere around the world. The number one topic on the World Bank meeting and the Asian Development Bank meetings is climate change and how they're going to deal with it over the next 20 years with their rice fields and their people living on the verge of poverty and starvation in a lot of third world countries. Average incomes of $500 a year, etc. Of course, in America, we might be able to get away with it longer. But the point is, the dam is breaking. And I'm just trying here, and you're helping me do a great deal. I'm really getting a lot of good information from you, and so are my listeners today, about this, because this is just one little crack in the dam we got to break. And if we can get this out there, there's two stories going on here. One of them, of course, is that we've got a product that's not being used. It should be used to replace products that we're using that have bad adverse effects on the environment. The other story is how our government is able to pull the wool over our eyes. This is one of the biggest conspiracies known to American history, and this is that in 1933, in order to get industrial hemp off the market so that it wouldn't compete with paper mills and tree pulp and oil products, they literally created a whole BS story. They picked on pot, the most benign. I mean, we have receptors in our body for all this pot stuff. It's in our human synapses, okay? It's meant to be done. And if you want to de-stress, it's a lot better for you than alcohol. And people want to de-stress, okay? We want that.
And it's safer.
No, it's safer. It's not. You're not going to get all messed up and drive the wrong way down the freeway. You're not going to beat your wife up. You know, you're not going to destroy your liver. And you go into the deepest, darkest Amazons, and you find the most primitive, never before seen tribes. They're getting high on something. Okay, that's not bad, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we do. And then they decide that liquor's, we're going to approve that, and cigarettes. So liquor and pot, or liquor and cigarettes are all good. So we don't stigmatize it, or we didn't. And yet we still continue to stigmatize pot, even though it's benign. It's what we want. It doesn't create all this havoc. It has medical uses. It has industrial uses. But just because the power that be, the people who have control over their little slaves and serfs called the American people, called us, just because they got the big stick, we don't get to fly. They're gonna destroy the world and have your sons and daughters killed in wars to profit their bank accounts. Would you agree with that, Paul Standford?
Certainly I do. Yes, of course. I think it's, all about the big oil companies and the big banks. They don't want to. They can, use that money in the black market. They get this, like the secret government. The folks who control the world, they use this drug money to do all their black ops. It's true. It's the greed that allows them to subjugate us, really.
You gotta love it, because let's go invade Iraq. Let's go invade Afghanistan. Oh, why are we there? Because of opium. Hello. It's where the oil field is. Except why did we invade Iraq? Because that's where the oil is. Why did we invade Afghanistan? Because that's where the opium is. That's like the Saudi Arabia of opium. I mean, there's just an untold billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars a year to be had.
If the North Koreans or the Syrians had oil, we'd be in there yesterday.
Oh my God, you know it. And you got to feel the North Koreans' pain when the fact is, they are next door to China, and that's been our game plan from day one. Let's take over the world and get our missiles up right next door through NATO into Russia, and get up next door to China through South Korea. I mean, people don't get it. They really believe what they read. But the crack's in the dam, ladies and gentlemen. And if we have to wait another generation for all you old people to die because you can't figure it out, so be it. People will suffer, like Roger Christie. He's in prison because of ignorance. I mean, the dam is cracked. Since he's been in prison with no bail, they've legalized it in 2 states. His mom died. They've had people going in and out of our court systems for murder, rape, and incredible amounts of methamphetamine, getting out the very next day on bail. Guy's sitting in there for 2 pounds of pot, and they call it manufacturing. Listen to this. Distribution and manufacturing of listen, you don't manufacture pot, gang. You grow it. Oh, well, that doesn't sound good, does it? They put him in jail for growing a plant. Well, Mom, what do you think about that? Well, I didn't know that. I thought he was manufacturing drugs. Bloody big brother. So not to make you disgusted. Paul, tell us some more. Paul Standford, what's going on? What's the future of hemp? Industrial.
Well, in Canada, they're producing it. In Colorado and Washington, where they just legalized recreational marijuana, they've allowed it to be cultivated as well. I think that once more states start to legalize marijuana and they allow hemp to emerge, because hemp and cannabis, they're different varieties of the same plant. The American law actually says that marijuana is the leaves and flowers and viable seeds of cannabis sativa, and hemp is the stem and the sterile seed of cannabis sativa. So you can't have one without the other. That's the trick. So right now it's imported from Canada, where they allow them to use those ultra-low THC strains, but they use it for fuel in China and in South Asia. It's used for a large part of their fuel, and we import a lot of the cloth.
My other and then, you've helped me, I got to tell you, because I was thinking, well, hell, I mean, if it's that good, why don't DuPont and why doesn't the paper industry and the fuel industry, why don't they adopt it? And you just told me Because right now, it takes incredible investment money to get into producing the products that this stuff could replace. And they're afraid to open the door to where any old Tom, Dick, and Harry with a few bucks might hooey up and be their competition. Is that true?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about.
How do people get a hold of you, may I ask?
For people who are looking online, hemp.org is a portal to all of our websites, hemp.org.
I lost you. I just lost your audio. Leah? I don't know. Maybe he was driving and drove into a tunnel somewhere.
No, can you hear me?
I can't now. Where'd you go?
Oh, I don't know. It's one of those cell phones.
What are you right now?
I am sitting in my home on my cell phone. I don't have a landline in here.
Where do you live?
In Portland, Oregon.
All right.
But I'll be in Hawaii from the 6th to the 10th.
Of this
Patients.
of this month?
Our doctor will see medical. Yeah, May.
All right. So you're coming live. You're coming live on my show, right?
Yeah.
I schedule you right now in front of the whole wide world.
Okay.
So you said 6th through 10th?
Yeah, I'll be seeing patients on the 8th. So either the
Tuesday
7th or the 9th would be the best.
Okay, so you're on for, let's make it the 7th in case something happens. We can salvage you to the 9th.
All right.
So Paul, make it out, and we'll talk it over, and then I'll get back to you after the show. I want to get Mr. Browner's phone number. And I love the education on this. I mean, this is so common sense. It's not like I'm out here claiming that marijuana should be legal because it's good for you and because it's good for pain and because it replaces drugs in pharmacies and that it's benign and that people want to have a stress reliever and that it's better for you than alcohol. I mean, all that's true. But still, it's the stigma of a marijuana smoker, a pothead. Ooh, those evil potheads, okay? We're just going to catch them and put them in prison. And let's be sure that we can make a lot of money. I'll build the prison first. Then we'll go out and arrest them. In fact, we'll make a law to make it even more illegal so we can arrest them faster and keep them longer. Now, that's the mentality we've been looking at. I'm talking about something that doesn't even get you high. But it's still illegal because the powers that be wanted it so. That is a big lesson to learn. I want to thank Paul Standford for helping me teach that lesson. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
You're very welcome, and you should be able to see this show. We won't be able to see you, but you can see my beautiful mug on YouTube tonight or tomorrow.
Thanks for helping Roger Christie.
I'm headed that direction as fast as I can. It's a travesty of justice. We're putting people in prison for marijuana, let alone keeping them in prison in Hawaii.
He's a nice, gentle man. He's not a danger to the community.
No kidding.
He has no criminal record, and they've held him for 3 years without bail, saying he's a danger to the community.
They've tried to break his back, and Roger Christie has got too much scruple for that, it turns out. And one day there's going to be hell for them to pay.
And he has a great defense, and I think when the jury hears it, they're in Honolulu, they're not going to put him in prison.
Well, guess what? That's the point, isn't it? They're not going to allow him to throw down his religious defense. Is that what you're talking about, right?
Well, we'll educate the people in the public and outside the courtroom if we can. If he can't bring it up in the courtroom, we'll educate them outside the courtroom.
You gotta love that. Love your attitude. And then again, hemp.org, yeah?
Hemp.org, brother.
Aloha. Thanks for helping out. Your solar guy wants to thank you. All right, that was it. Kind of dry, but very important. 2 lessons to be learned. 1, there's a product out there the world has been using and is using. 2, we're not using it because our government decides what we do. Because we're not a government anymore. We don't even, why bother voting? I swear to God. Corporate America owns you. Corporate America owns you. Corporate America owns our government. They pay for politicians, and they own them. And they write legislation and law to favor them. And this is just a perfect example of it. Wake up. Wake up. Smell the coffee. Your solar guy. On a better note, hug your keiki. Be nice to your significant other. Be nice to yourself. Use aloha for every way it was meant to be used. The most powerful substance on the planet, aloha. You'll find me here tomorrow. Find me at the end of my cell phone, 554-7200, 554-7200. Your solar guy saying, aloha.